All right, here we go. It's so good. Hi everybody, I'm Liz Moody and welcome to the very first episode ever of A Little Bit Healthier. I am the food director at mindbodygreen, and every other week I'm going to be coming to your home to teach you how to make some of your favorite foods a little bit healthier. So we're going to kick it off with a really amazing Christmas recipe. I asked everybody on Instagram what their number one recipe they wanted me to make over for Christmas was, and they universally said gingerbread men. And I was honestly kind of terrified because gingerbread men are hard. They're tricky. You have to roll them out. There's a texture issue. There's a reason that people haven't made them a little bit healthier. But I succeeded, I think. I love these actually. They're amazing. I've been testing them for a few days. My house has smelled so good. My husband is really into them, although maybe getting sick of them at this point because I've made so many, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love them. Also, it's a one bowl situation, so super easy. Don't need any real cooking skills because why? So we have 2 cups of almond flour. This whole thing is gluten-free, all of that, so we can have it be really anti-inflammatory, good for our guts. And then I'm also using a 1/2 cup of buckwheat flour. I love buckwheat flour because it's a little bit more powdery than almond flour, which helps make the dough really dry, which we're gonna want because we're gonna roll it out so we can make all our little cute gingerbready shapes. Actually, buckwheat is not a wheat, it's a seed, and this is the powdered version of it. My Russian grandmother loves buckwheat. She eats it in the form of kasha, which you'll have it in soups and a lot of traditional Russian dishes, but this is Bob's Red Mill. You can find it at any grocery store. So we're doing a 1/2 cup. It's also really high in protein, and it's an easily digestible protein, which is awesome. For our sweetener here, we're gonna go with coconut sugar. I love coconut sugar as a sweetener. It's lower GI than a lot of sweeteners. It still has a lot of that fiber in it, which is why you cannot brulee it, which I have learned the hard way. So we're gonna add a 1/2 cup. All right, and then we're gonna add our spices. I like to use a lot of spices. Spices, I think, I'm always preaching this, they're the original superfoods. You didn't need to buy your bags of crazy expensive tocos and ashwagandha, although I love those too. So I like to put a ton of spices into all of my foods. I also think they taste so good. So we're gonna pack the spices into this. We're starting with ginger because they are, after all, ginger cookies. So we're using a whopping tablespoon of ginger. Ginger is also, of course, really good for your gut, really soothing during the holidays when you're eating probably a lot of food, maybe drinking a little bit more than you normally would if you're me. And then I'm also using a lot of cinnamon. And that's metabolism boosting. It adds a really yummy flavor, lots of polyphenols. We love all of that. And then we have a little bit of cloves in here with some baking powder, which is not a spice, but I ran out a little cute ramekin. So have our tiny bit of cloves. Do not add too much cloves because it will really overpower. They're a very strong flavor. They're super good for you, but incredibly strong flavor. So be gentle with your cloves. And then we're just adding a little bit of salt. I like to keep my salt in a little salt pot like this, which I love because you can just kind of grab big handfuls of it whenever you want. So I keep it on my counter. I could just kind of go in it. It's really dirty. I use it a lot. So this is just a pink mineral salt. I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon. I like to use mineral salt whenever I can because it hasn't been bleached. It hasn't been chemically processed. Anything we can get in whole food form, we prefer to do that at mindbodygreen. So, and then I'm adding a little bit of fresh ground black pepper. I think this adds a really nice savory note. It gives the final cookie, a lot of depth and a little bit of extra spice, which I love. Pepper also contains a compound called piperine, which actually helps you absorb the nutrients of all of the rest of your foods a little bit better. So that'll help us get all the good stuff from the cinnamon and the ginger and assimilate it into our bodies, which is awesome. So we just give that a mix. When it's all pretty much incorporated, we're gonna add in our wet ingredients. And I'm not too precise with any of this. People say you need to be precise when baking. I'm not a precise person, so I try my best. So now we're gonna add a little bit of avocado oil. This will give the cookies a really nice texture, and I like to use avocado oil because it's 1, liquid at room temperature, which makes it a lot easier to use, but 2, it has a super neutral flavor. So if you're gonna use olive oil here, it would have a lot stronger of a flavor and it'd be harder to incorporate. Next, we're gonna add vanilla. Honestly, don't even usually measure my vanilla. We're gonna do about a teaspoon. I love vanilla. I put way too much of it in anything. Let's do like an extra splash just because like it's so good. I think vanilla makes everything taste better. It also processes in your brain as an element of sweetness. So if you think something isn't sweet enough or you want to add a little bit less sugar, you can get away with adding more vanilla and then your brain will think it's sweet. And then you'll be like, yeah, I'm eating sweets, which is my favorite thing to do. And then this is Blackstrap Molasses, which is a key ingredient to any good gingerbread cookie. It's really rich in minerals. If you're iron deficient, you can just put a little bit of Blackstrap molasses in some water and drink it every day, and it'll actually help massively with iron deficiency. It's like not very sweet on its own, but it will add that like signature delicious gingerbread flavor. And then finally, I just have an egg. I always prefer to buy pastured eggs whenever possible. I like to buy them from my farmer's market because there aren't any certification standards for pastured right now. I also like Vital Farms if you're just at a normal grocery store. And then we just mix it all up. You want the dough to be super dry because that's gonna be what's gonna let you roll it out later. So I'm gonna do what I can with my spoon. And then I'm probably gonna get in there with my hands just to make sure everything is really incorporated. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. It smells like Christmas. And the nice thing about working with gluten-free ingredients is that you don't need to really worry about over mixing it. Normal cookie dough you do. You don't want the flour, the glutens in the flour to seize up and get a really chewy cookie. But gluten-free, you don't have to worry about it. So it's a lot easier. So we're just gonna divide this into 2 little dough balls. And we're gonna wrap them in parchment paper, and then we're gonna put them in the fridge to chill for about an hour, and that's gonna help all the ingredients set up, and it'll make a firmer dough so that we can roll it out and cut out all of our really cute cookie characters. All right, so I'm just grabbing some parchment paper, 1 dough ball goes in each one. Just wrap it up like it's a little holiday present. I would not mind receiving cookie dough as a holiday present. Are you a cookie dough person or a cookie person? Would you rather eat the cookie dough or would you rather eat the cookies? Because I am 100% team cookie dough, but let me know in the comments below. Tell me if you're team cookie dough, because then, you know, you have good taste. But choose whatever you want. So it's been about an hour in the fridge, and this is when we're gonna wanna turn on our oven, because otherwise we're preheating our oven for like an hour and our house will get really hot and we'll waste a bunch of energy. So after you've chilled your dough for about an hour, come on over. We're gonna turn the oven on to 350. This is my teeny tiny New York oven. This is my teeny tiny New York apartment. So honestly, everything that I make in here, if I can make it in here, you can make it in whatever kitchen that you exist in the world, because everything's tiny here. My oven's mini size, my fridge is mini sized, everything's tiny. So we're just gonna take another piece of parchment paper and put it over top, and then I like to just get things started by smashing it down a little bit. Don't do too much with your hands because your hands are hot, or, you know, they're warmer than a wooden dowel. So as much as you can, just smush it down, and then we're just gonna use our rolling pin and we're gonna roll it out until it's about that thick. What is that, like 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch? It's gonna be about as thick as a gingerbread cookie. So we're gonna roll it out. All right, so what I love about using parchment paper is it means you don't need to use any flour to roll it out. The parchment paper will just not stick onto itself. So you just peel it back, and then we have our perfect cookie dough. So I'm gonna grab a cookie cutter, and then we're gonna cut out some shapes. We're just gonna press. So these don't spread at all, so you can put them quite close to each other. Little cuties. This guy lost an arm a little bit, but such are the battlefields of cookie making. And then you take your remaining dough, press it into a ball, and just do the whole thing again. This is still pretty cold, so I think I can get another round out of it. But the reason that we have half of our dough chilling in the fridge is if it gets too warm at any point during rolling it out, you can just pull out the extra ball from your fridge and put this back in the fridge to rest. So we'll do another round. Kind of like a Rorschach test, like what it looks like. It looks kind of like a liver to me. What does it look like to you, Andres?
It's a heart.
So you can already see, because the dough is warming up, it's getting a little bit stickier, but we can still work with it. Okay, so one thing to note is when you have like a little bit left and maybe not enough to do enough of your cookie cutters, I just actually like pull off a little piece and I form shapes out of it, or I'll hand carve, like sometimes I'll make letters, I'll make my name out of it because I'm a grown-up. I also like to do caterpillars because they're really fun to decorate. So do that with your leftover dough. Don't waste any dough scraps so we can have as many cookies as possibly possible. So we can leave these plain so that we can ice them later. But if you want a little bit more of a grown-up take on a gingerbread cookie, I like to use some smoked sea salt on top. So this is just Maldon. You can find this online or at a lot of grocery stores. And it has a really lovely smoky flavor. And I just sprinkle that right on top of the cookies. It looks really pretty. It gives it sort of that like star sprinkly type. And it gives it a lot more of a sophisticated grown-up flavor than just the icing will. So I'm gonna put some smoked salt on some of these, and then I'll leave other ones plain so that we can add lots of frosting. You could of course do both. I just think they're kind of different vibes. One's a little bit more umami, a little bit more smoky. The smoke plays off the black pepper in a really beautiful, spicy, smoky type way. And then the other one is like childhood joy in a bite. So we'll give people options. And then we will bake these off for about 10 to 12 minutes, 350 degrees. Okay, so it has been about 10 to 12 minutes, but what we're gonna look for is a little bit of browning at the tips of our stars. Come. So you're looking for just that little hint of a darker brown at the tips of your stars, because otherwise they're gonna more or less look the same and you won't be able to tell if they're done. So just that little hint of dark brown. And then we're gonna let these cool on the pan for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna transfer them to a cooling rack for the rest of their little lives. You can just leave them on the pan too if you don't have a cooling rack. I didn't get a cooling rack until I was very advanced in my cooking life. But yeah, let them cool completely, and then we're gonna decorate them. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna see my cute little caterpillar that I made with the leftovers. Isn't he cute? Like, don't you want to decorate that? Cool. Now we decorate. I assume that I don't need to tell you how to decorate a cookie, since it's a very highly personalized endeavor that I would never want to interfere with anybody's creativity about. But yeah, just wait till they're completely cooled so the icing doesn't melt. This is a wholesome icing, but Simple Mills also makes a really good healthy icing, and there's a few different recipes to make them yourself that I will link in the mindbodygreen post that will have the recipe for the entire cookies and all of that. Again, you can also leave them plain if you don't want to mess with the frosting at all, and just put the cute little salt on top and have, you know, your sophisticated grown-up cookie. So I'm using a piping bag just to be eco-friendly because you can wash it out and reuse it, but if you don't have one of these, just cut the tip off the plastic bag, put your frosting in, make sure you're holding the top so it doesn't squirt out the top, and you're good to go. All right, so let's go in here and do some decoration. What do you want me to make for you?
Giraffe.
What? What do you want me to make for you that I can draw?
Heart.
I'm gonna do a heart. Okay, we'll do a heart with an A in it for Andres. So cute. So use your creativity here. Do whatever feels right to your soul. I'm gonna finish decorating these cookies. You can find the entire recipe for everything I've just made here on mindbodygreen.com. I will leave the link in the description below. And thank you guys so much for joining me on the very first ever episode of A Little Bit Healthier. Definitely tune in 2 weeks. We're gonna have a fresh episode up for you guys, so subscribe to the mindbodygreen channel if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a happy holiday. They were so good. You gonna try one?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It was like the best gingerbread cookie I've ever had in my life.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you just say that was the best gingerbread cookie you'd ever had in your life?
Yeah. I mean that.
I just want to make sure we have the camera rolling.